Hey, what's going on? It's me, Kenny Roy. Going to do the AnimGym webcast right now. Not really webcast. I haven't been doing these as a webcast lately because it's just too hard to find a time that I can guarantee I'll be able to stick to. Things being so busy at the studio lately. So it's actually just the AnimGym recording. But we are going to push on no matter what. We're going to get this done. This month there are 3 entries. Very good. That's what I like to see. Thank you everyone for participating. I saw a few more in the forums, people who were working on their shots, and 3 members will get their critiques right now. So that's fantastic. I'm actually super happy about that. So let's take a second right now and critique these. Okay. Let me just switch over. Hold on one sec. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes I have to switch my monitors in order to get stuff done. So remember, the idea here is that I am watching these for the first time. We're trying to get the first impression, just the off the cuff impression. Here we go. So first up is Kitwana. Kitwana, a stalwart participant in the AnimGym. Thank you for coming again. Let's watch. Here we go. Let me loop that. All right, here we go. Oh, interesting. I really like that. Let me tell you. Let me say what I like about it first before we go too much into critique. What I like about it most is that you set it up. You give us plenty of time to sort of get our bearings in the shot. And then there is a movement, and there's enough time. I would do a little bit more, but there is enough time of him standing still with that hand back there for us to get a read on that and to get on board and to be prepared for when the ball lands, us be able to track that ball. Wherever you put your hand, there will be eyes that go there. Wherever you hold your hand out, there will be audience that looks there, and so that's good. I would do a little bit more. I would have him stick that hand out and be waiting there for maybe like six more frames, I would say, and a little bit more still. Then when the ball, what's happening? Then when the ball comes, a little bit more in the body. All right. Just a little bit more in the body, where the weight of the ball is not necessarily motivating his body going downwards, but there is just a little bit of a purposeful, on his part, movement of catching it and presenting it. It feels a little bit stiff and quick. It hits, and there's like this quick little like jolt in his body. I would make it more movement and slower movement, so that when he gets his hand right here and then lands and then presents it, and smooth those things a little bit more together. Take the momentum of that ball and sort of have it continue this arc through his body into that moment where he's presenting it like this. And also just the way that he's actually holding the ball up in front. I think it would be nicer if he gets it and he's holding the ball from underneath instead of presenting it like this. He's actually lifting it up. So it's just a little bit of a pose issue. You have some things going on that are typical of posing this thing using without having used the shoulder or neck controls. His shoulders are very straight throughout here, whereas I'd like to see this one drop down and this one raised up a little bit more. See how the neck and shoulders are like a perfect T almost throughout this entire shot. You need to pose those shoulders a little bit more. Just as a workflow tip, just when you're posing, don't work kind of like big controllers outwards, and don't skip over anything. So you pose your spine, and then if he's reaching up right there, like raise the shoulder and then have him reach up. All right, just so that you don't forget to do those. That also is you want to avoid, if you can, any problems that you're going to get with ranging, meaning like the range from where he's standing and like reaching out to. Okay, so that's just another thing. Okay, so you want to try to avoid those ranging issues. You want to try to avoid everything that you can in terms of workflow and posing, and not forgetting those things there. He could also be a little bit more telegraphing where that ball is with his whole body and his head. You're kind of relying a little bit on subtle head movement, and this character's eyes are basically useless. It's all head direction with a character that has no pupils. So you could telegraph that just a little bit more. And like I said, getting into position, this is a really, really great pose, really, really interesting, and I love that the hand is out there nice and featured in that silhouette. I can't even get the right angle here. Featured in that silhouette. I would just get it out there just a little bit longer. If you watch the Pixar short film Presto, you'll see a lot of great movement and a lot of great ideas on how long to hold poses, because that magician does that a lot. He kind of like presents, and like it's a long time when he does it himself. So that's a good thing to sort of emulate. Turns out exactly 72 frames, like always. Kitwana always doing the max. Yeah, I would give this a solid that's an 8 clapper, I would say. Really, really, really good. I'm glad you're around. This is improvement. Kitwana, I'm really, really, really excited to have you continuing on in the AnimGym. Keep it up, okay? Good job. All right, Eleanor, Dayton up next. Oh, and by the way, Kit, please play blast at like this size. Your play blast was tiny just now. This one is a little bit better. I think this is 720p. This thing. All right, this is very interesting. You know what's interesting about this, Eleanor? This kind of has the element that I struggle to get into my work. That is so real and so natural. And where you do it is the fact that his movement is backwards away from the cupboard, but he moves quickly to try to catch that falling glass, but his movement is still backwards. And the fact that he has to bend his back in order to move his hands in range to catch that cup, and the amount that it actually disrupts his balance, leading to him lifting that foreground leg. All of that leading to the necessity for him to lift that foreground leg. It's an amazing discovery here. Let me see why it's showing the stupid file name. Playback. Media. I wish the file name wasn't there. Preferences. Video. Window decorations. That's probably bad. Turn off subtitles. Show media. There we go. Okay. So let's try this again. There we go. All right. Much better. So all of that combined, really, 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 really hard to sort of put together in your mind before you do the shot. It's almost something that needs to be discovered as you're doing it. Unless you can, and in which case I would say congratulations, because you've got a very rare talent that is super hard to develop in animation. I love the contrast. I love how when he's moving backwards, it's still on that smooth. You see, I just like watching his hips. And it's really easy because you have that, the two different colors, so it's easy to kind of watch. But as he's moving backwards, that quick bend in the back to catch that thing, making it necessary so that something has to move forward to counteract that, and then he places that leg. I mean, that is a discovery that is like, one in 10 shots will have something that like kind of like jumps out at you for that. Once you've made that discovery, once you have all that in there, where I would improve this from here is to do just a little bit of work on the hips, and by work I mean not necessarily I'm going at it with a goal. I would just do some experimenting with the hips, taking that. There's a little bit of a slow in to almost a near stop around frame 40. And on that frame, just moving that position, like trying different spacing ideas, and then just playing it back. If you're animating with tempo, this is really super simple. You just go to that frame and just move it around, just respace it, play it, and sit back and try to judge it, try to watch it as if you aren't even the animator. Try to watch it as if you were just an audience member and see if this is better animation than you saw a second ago. Okay? Because I feel like there probably is maybe a 1 or 2 frame, or if you're spacing it just like 5 to 10 pixels like left or right, that would be just even a little bit stronger in terms of setting up that contrast of him moving smoothly backwards and then his body having to go into action in order to catch that cup. I think it's really great. You could be doing more work in the shoulders on this when he's placing it. You could be doing a little bit more work on the neck. It kind of seems like his neck goes like stiff and robotic, and you also want to make sure that the neck and head are reacting a little bit more, because of the way that the head is, the body's moving forward and the neck moves back. Watch my head. It almost you almost want to have like a little bit more like overlap instead of well, it's kind of like this. It's kind of doing that. Okay. So that, because really you have to concentrate so hard to do the right action. It's almost like that dance move. You've seen like those guys that can do this like perfectly, right? Like a chicken almost. You're getting just a hair of that right there. You see how his head is like almost perfectly still. And it's because the head, it looks like the head's rotating backwards, or you have a head isolation channel that's on. I recommend that you always turn that thing off. If you guys are watching my video mails every week on the site, you have seen me when I start with a rig like Goon, who has head isolation turned on by default. First thing I do is I always turn that off. I turn on Goon, it's actually on the head it's neck influence, and on the neck it's chest influence. Anyway, but it's basically another word for like head follow, and it basically makes it so that like if your body's moving, then your head will move or rotate with it. Otherwise, it goes like this. So that's I would say that those channels are only good for when you are doing something like if you have like a character that's like stalking somebody, or like a warrior like in a fight scene where you want to have total control over like, you know, like where they're, you see what I'm doing, like what they're looking at and whatever. You just want to be able to do just the only minimal amount of sort of like physics that are going into that, but you want them like their head to be like super focused. Otherwise, if you're doing something like this, if it's someone like reacting to the world around them, I mean, just look what I just did. I kind of like made my eyes, you know, go, you know, locked to my head, and I sort of like, you know, the more reactionary you are, the more you're kind of like, whoa, you know, everything is moving kind of together. You're not as sort of like focused and zoomed in. And obviously, like cats and dogs or any quadruped really, like on the prowl, like obviously that head isolation, you know, everything is moving like a lot, but you want that head to be super still. So I would almost all cases remove that or turn that channel off when you're doing any sort of like bipedal movement or like a human. That hand is a little bit locked. Be honest with yourself. Put your hand on a table and move around and look how little you can move without that hand sliding. Okay? And lifting your elbow. Okay? Lift that elbow and just see, it's like it is, your hand moves, I'm going to just guess about 15% as much as people animate it in terms of the range of motion. Like your hand in reality has only, I would say, like 1/8 of the actual range in real life. You move that, you put that hand down on a table, you lift that elbow, you just watch your hand move around, and then you move your elbow just a little bit left and right, and just watch your hand slide and your fingertips drag and whatever. So it immediately looks very, it looks glued to this countertop when you have all of that movement, especially right here. Okay, not so much right here, right when he puts it down, but especially, you know, when it's extended, and even when this elbow is going like left to right, it looks it looks glued to that countertop. Okay, I'm also not sure, last thing I want to say is I'm also not sure about that head turning so quickly to the left as he turns away from that cupboard. I feel like probably it would all kind of go smoothly together. One could argue that you want to break up everything, don't pose super full body on an action like this. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that this can probably be broken up just a little bit, but doesn't need to be broken up completely. I mean the motion of the body and the neck and the head. Don't completely break it up. I would say this can be broken up a little bit, but for the most part, just have that turn be pretty much full body. You know, body, chest, neck, and head, all kind of like turning smoothly away until he has to do that quick motion and catch the falling glass. This is really great. Also, just one tiny little PS on this whole thing. Really so awesome that the glass that falls isn't the one that he placed on the countertop. I mean, just little details like that. I mean, really shows you know what you're doing. It's just, it's kind of like natural. It's what is it, man? Just really pleases me. I can't tell you why, but it just really pleases me. So thank you. Great job. That is another solid exercise for this month, and I'm proud of you for doing it. Thank you. Please keep on coming back. Is this repeating? Yeah. Video zoom double. Okay. A good entry. This is. I say this at least with one entry every single AnimGym. Remember, a shot. you don't know until you start a shot and until you hit that first struggle or get a certain progress with it, what that shot was put on earth to teach you. And I think this shot was put on earth to teach you how to negotiate the balance between the body falling and sliding and the stuff that has to go on within the body after an impact like that. Because what's happening is when he's landing, he's exhibiting just superhuman core muscles that he's not like hitting and then rolling out flat and slapping, with his chest and whatever. He's landing on his hip and he's staying kind of, in a crunch position. He's able to keep his head from even hitting. And I'm not saying his head would slap the ground, but in terms of like how much friction there is there and whatever, the amount of strength you would need to land on your hip after a dive and not in some way at least roll out flat onto the ground, or your legs come up and you go onto your shoulders or something, is like superhuman. So when I watch this and I see that he's able to kind of just like land and I see he's supporting himself on his shoulder, and that does help, but still just the amount that his chest, neck, and head are seemingly immune to the the jostling and the really like the bumpy kind of landing that he has, kind of makes me feel like there's a little bit more negotiating to do. In that negotiation, the physics kind of lost out a little bit. The amount that his body is sliding kind of won that negotiation, and I'm not sure it should have. The same goes for the top leg, his right leg, but the screen upper leg. That screen upper leg is able to somehow stay very, very, very steady, and like the knees don't clack together, that foot never slaps the ground, nothing happens. He kind of like lands, and it's kind of like cruising up there for the ride the entire time. It eventually, around frame 30, comes up, it gains on the body as he comes to a stop, so that kind of betrays a little bit of weight in the leg, which is good. So as he comes to a stop, it's almost like the weight of the leg is overlapping. That's good. I don't think that should resolve as quickly. It seems like that happens, and then he immediately kicks his leg out and then puts it on the ground. I think that happens too quickly. He's also able to, even by frame 44, it looks like his hips are fully rotated back down onto the ground. I think that happened too quickly as well. He would have to get a lot more sort of recovery in the overall body, in the overall movement and physics of what's happened. He would have to get more recovered before his hips could rotate flat to the ground. Watch it again and see how quickly his hips are able to rotate flat to the ground. In fact, actually, you know what? On the last like 2 frames or so, it looks like he's already even getting up. I think you're trying to get him a little bit too recovered, a little bit too sorted by the end of this thing. I don't think he should be as recovered as you have him in here. I'm saying a lot. I've made it a goal to not say ever, and I've said it a lot, especially in this critique. I apologize. The beginning is great. I'm in love with, man, that the plateau on that arc, especially because you have 2 different things. You have 2 different things moving at different rates, is really great. I really like the Y motion. You could do just a little bit stronger posing. You could do a little bit stronger posing as he's flying through. It's in the second half of this catch. It seems as though the hips start rotating and the legs are brought in. Basically what I'm saying is he can land a little bit more stretched out as well. Because I'm not sure if it would be his legs that sort of are brought up to his chest in anticipation of hitting the ground. I think it might be his arms would probably go down. We've tried to, if we are past a certain point, I feel like humans try to break their fall with their hands, or in this case his elbows, more than we try to make it a comfortable sort of pad for our legs to land on. could be wrong. This could be heavily referenced, and you know, from the reference that you've gathered, you might have a better idea of what this should look like, and I won't discount that. So, you know, take what I just said about the landing pose with a grain of salt. Yeah. The more I watch this, the more I feel like you were trying to get him like already standing up by the end of it a little bit too earnestly. I think he could come just to like this pose, like the pose on 43, and see how his hips aren't even fully rotated down parallel to the ground yet. I think 43 could be your last pose, and you could add 10 frames. So like you could only get here by 53. That slowing that down would be a lot better. A lot of great stuff going on in here, but let physics win the fight a little bit more. Let physics and what has to go on in the body and the body mechanics kind of win the fight a little bit more. Okay, that would be my advice to you. Another great entry. Really happy you guys are in the AnimGym. Thank you, all three of you, for turning it in. I'm going to go post the topic for this month right now in the forums. I appreciate you guys being around. It's been a blast. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.